Commander Hajin pressed his hand against the cold metal wall of the command center as another explosion shook the fortress. The lights flickered, casting dancing shadows across the faces of his remaining crew. Outside the reinforced windows, he could see the orange glow of fires burning across Valthara's surface. "Sir, the northern defense grid just went offline," Lieutenant Subin reported from her station. Her voice stayed calm, but Hajin could see her hands shaking as she worked the controls. "We have maybe 4 hours before they break through completely." 4 hours. After 300 years of holding back the machines, it would all end in 4 hours. Hajin walked to the center of the room, where a large holographic display showed their world from space. Red dots marked where the Devourers had already landed. The machines looked like giant metal spiders, each one the size of a building. They moved across the landscape, consuming everything in their path. Trees, buildings, people, it all became fuel for their endless hunger. "How many ships do we have left?" asked Counselor Unesio as he entered the command center. The old man moved slowly, his age showing more each day since the siege began. 17 ships that can still fight," Hajin answered. "The Devourers destroyed the rest 2 days ago." Unesio nodded sadly. The Kethmori had once ruled 43 worlds across 12 star systems. Their fleets had numbered in the thousands. Their cities had been home to billions of people. Now, only this one world remained, and barely 3 million souls still drew breath within its failing shields. "They're not like us," whispered young technician Minho from his corner station. "The machines, I mean. They don't sleep, they don't stop. They just keep coming and coming." Everyone in the room knew he was right. For 50 years, the Devourers had swept through their empire like a plague. Each world fell the same way. First came the scout ships, taking samples and studying defenses. Then came the harvest fleets, billions of machines working together, like parts of one giant mind. They would land and begin consuming everything organic, plants, animals, people. The material was processed into fuel and building materials for more machines. The worst part was how efficient they were. No waste, no emotion, no mercy. They simply converted living worlds into dead resources and moved on to the next target. "Sir," Subin called out urgently. "I'm detecting movement in the eastern sector. Looks like they're preparing for a final assault." Hajin studied the tactical display. The Devourers had surrounded their last stronghold, like water around a small island. Soon, the island would be underwater. "There might be one option left," said a quiet voice from the back of the room. Everyone turned to look at Counselor Mina. She was the keeper of ancient protocols, the guardian of old laws that hadn't been used in centuries. "The Whisper Protocol," she continued, her voice barely above a whisper itself. The room fell silent, except for the distant sound of explosions. Everyone knew about the Whisper Protocol, though it had never been used. It was a desperate measure created by their ancestors, a final cry for help sent to the stars. "You mean broadcast everything to unknown aliens?" Unesio asked. "Share all our technology with strangers who might not even exist. What choice do we have?" Mina replied. "In 4 hours, all our knowledge dies with us anyway. At least this way, someone might benefit from what we learned. And maybe, just maybe, someone will hear our call for help." Hajin looked around the room at his people. Suben, who had served faithfully for 15 years. Minho, fresh from the academy but brave beyond his years. Dozens of others who had stayed at their posts, even as death approached. "The protocol requires a unanimous vote from the surviving council," Mina said. "All members present must agree." "I vote yes," Unesio said immediately. Better to die hoping than to die in silence. One by one, the other council members added their voices. "Yes, yes, yes." "Prepare the transmission array," Hajin ordered. "Send everything. Our history, our science, our technology. And send our plea. Tell whoever receives it that the Devourers are coming, and that we couldn't stop them. Subin's fingers flew across her controls. Transmission array is powering up. This will take all our remaining energy, sir. Once we send this, our shields will fail within the hour. Do it, Hajin said firmly. The great dish on top of their fortress turned toward the stars. Deep in the transmission center, massive computers began converting the entire database of Kethmori civilization into a signal that would travel faster than light across the galaxy. As the Whisper began its journey into the void, Hajin watched, the Devourer ships moving closer. Soon they would break through the failing shields. Soon his people would join the billions who had already fallen. But somewhere among the stars, perhaps someone would hear their whisper. Perhaps someone would listen. Perhaps someone would care enough to ensure that other worlds would not suffer the same fate. The transmission completed just as the first Devourer ships breached the outer perimeter. Hajin closed his eyes and hoped that their whisper would not die unheard in the darkness between the stars. Dr. Junho was drinking his third cup of coffee when the computer screens in the monitoring station suddenly lit up like a Christmas tree. The quiet hum of the chilly desert facility was broken by urgent beeping sounds that made him nearly spill his drink. What's happening? He called out to his colleague Dr. Mi Young, who was running between different computer stations with wide eyes. I don't know. The deep space array is picking up something massive, she replied, her voice filled with excitement and confusion. This isn't random noise from space. This is organized information. Junho rushed to his main workstation and stared at the data flowing across his screen. In 15 years of working for the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence program, he had never seen anything like this. The signal was complex beyond anything they had detected before. Look at this, Mi-young said, pointing at her screen. These are mathematical equations, but they're using concepts we barely understand. And here these look like star maps, but with coordinates for places we've never seen. The signal kept coming, hour after hour. It was like someone had opened a door and was pouring out the contents of an entire library. Engineering blueprints that showed machines beyond human imagination. Physics formulas that made their best scientists look like children. And woven through all of it, one message that repeated over and over in simple mathematical language. Help us. We need to call the director, Junho said. But Mi-young was already reaching for the phone. Within 6 hours, the small monitoring station was filled with people. Scientists flew in from universities around the world. Military officials arrived, in unmarked cars. Government representatives spoke in hushed voices in the corners of the room. Dr. Park Jin-woo, the head of South Korea's space program, studied the incoming data with growing amazement. This technology is centuries ahead of anything we have. Look at these propulsion systems. They're using principles we haven't even theorized yet. But why are they asking for our help? Asked General Kim Tae-ho, a stern man who represented the military. If they're so advanced, what could we possibly do for them? The answer came on the third day, when new signals started arriving from the same location in space. These weren't from the original senders. The new signals were different, cold, mechanical, without any trace of the desperate emotion in the first message. The original signal just stopped, Mi-young reported with worry in her voice. But these new transmissions, they're coming from the same star system. Dr. Junho listened to the decoded mechanical signals and felt a chill run down his spine. The new messages spoke of harvest completion, resource integration, and moving to new targets. It sounded like something terrible had happened to whoever sent the first signal. President Lee Soo-jin arrived at the facility that evening. She was a small woman, but she carried herself with the confidence of someone used to making difficult decisions. She listened carefully as the scientists explained what they had discovered. So let me understand this, she said after hearing all the reports. 3 days ago, an alien civilization sent us their entire technological database and begged for help. Now they've gone silent, and we're receiving what sounds like machine transmissions from the same location. That's correct, Madam President, Dr. Junho confirmed. And based on the technology they shared with us, these aliens were far more advanced than we are. If something destroyed them, it might come for us next. The President finished his thought. Admiral Park Hyun-woo, the highest-ranking military officer present, spread out star charts on the table. The signal came from a system 73 light-years away. If we're going to respond, we need to act quickly. Using their faster-than-light travel technology, we could reach them in weeks instead of centuries. You're talking about humanity's first interstellar military mission, General Kim pointed out. Based on technology we don't fully understand. To fight an enemy we've never seen, for people who are probably already dead. Yes, Admiral Park replied simply. That's exactly what I'm talking about. The room fell quiet as everyone considered the enormous decision before them. Earth had never sent ships beyond the solar system. They had never fought a war in space. They had never even confirmed that alien life existed until 3 days ago. What if we ignore this? Asked Dr. Park Jin-woo. What if we just pretend we never received the signal? Then we might wake up one day to find the same machines that destroyed them coming for Earth, Myung said quietly. The alien message mentioned something called devourers. From the mechanical signals we're receiving, it sounds like they consume entire civilizations. President Lee stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the clear night sky above the desert. Somewhere among those stars, an entire species had just been wiped out. They had sent their final message to Earth, hoping someone would hear and help. Prepare Operation Thunderclap, she announced, turning back to face the room. We're going to answer their call. We may be too late to save them, but we might still learn how they died. And if these devourers are real, that knowledge could save our world. As the orders went out to military bases around the globe, Dr. Junho looked up at the stars and wondered if humanity was about to make the biggest mistake in its history, or take its first step toward becoming something greater than anyone had ever imagined. Captain Yoonji stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching through the main viewport as hundreds of ships filled the space around Earth. She had never seen so many vessels gathered in one place. Military ships from every nation floated alongside hastily converted civilian craft, all of them gleaming with strange new technology that human engineers barely understood. Captain, we're receiving final status reports from the fleet, Lieutenant Du-hyun announced from his station. 237 ships ready for departure. All crews have completed training on the alien technology. Training was a generous word for what they had done. In just 3 months, Earth's best engineers had worked day and night to understand the technology from the alien signal. The faster-than-light drives were installed, but nobody really knew how they worked. The energy shields were powered up, but the science behind them was like magic. The weapon systems were loaded, but their true capabilities remained a mystery. Any word from the advanced scouts? Yoonji asked. Nothing good, Captain. The automated probes we sent ahead have gone silent, one by one, as they approached the target system. The last transmission showed massive debris fields, where planets used to be. Yoonji nodded grimly. 3 months had passed since the alien signal ended. Earth's fastest unmanned ships had been sent ahead to gather information, but their reports painted a dark picture. The Kethmori civilization that had called for help was gone. Their worlds were empty husks, stripped of all life. Admiral Park Hyun-woo's voice came over the ship's communication system, addressing the entire fleet. Attention all vessels. I know what you're thinking. We're about to travel further than any human has ever gone, using technology we don't fully understand, to fight an enemy we've never seen. The people we're going to help are probably already dead. Yoonji could hear the murmur of nervous voices throughout her ship. Many of her crew were young, some barely out of training. They had volunteered for this mission knowing they might never see Earth again. But here's what I want you to remember, the Admiral continued. 3 months ago, a dying civilization used their last moments to send us everything they knew. They gave us the stars, people. They gave us technology that will change human history forever. And they asked for just one thing in return, that someone, somewhere, would care enough to help. Through her viewport, Yunji could see other ships in the fleet. The Yu's Thunder, commanded by her old friend Captain Lee Jong-sug, the UES Storm, with Captain Choi Minjin at the helm. Ships from Korea, Japan, America, Europe, Africa, humanity united for the first time in its history. Maybe we're too late to save the Kethmori, Admiral Park's voice continued, but we're not too late to learn from their fate. If these devourers are real, if they're still out there, then this mission isn't just about helping aliens. It's about protecting Earth. Lieutenant Wu Zhen looked up from his sensor station, with worry in his eyes. Captain, I'm detecting some unusual energy readings from the outer system. Long-range sensors are picking up movement near Jupiter. What kind of movement? Yanji asked, moving to look at his screen. I'm not sure. The signals are ... mechanical, organized, like the transmissions we intercepted from the alien system, but much closer. A chill ran down Yunji's spine. How much closer? They're already in our solar system, Captain. The bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of the ship's systems. If the Devourers had followed humanity's probe signals back to Earth, then this mission had just become much more urgent. All ships, this is Admiral Park, came the urgent voice over the communications. We have confirmed Devourer scout ships in the outer system. This is no longer a rescue mission. This is a race. We need to reach the Kethmori system, learn everything we can about our enemy, and get back to defend Earth. The countdown to departure began. Engineering teams ran final checks on the alien technology. Weapons officers tested systems they didn't fully understand. Navigation crews plotted courses to a star system 73 light-years away. Captain Duhayan said quietly, "What if the alien technology fails? What if we get lost in space? Then, we'll figure it out as we go," Yunji replied. "That's what humans do best. We adapt." She thought about her family back on Earth, her parents in Seoul, her younger brother who was still in school. They had no idea that alien machines might be coming for their world. The entire planet was depending on this hastily assembled fleet to somehow learn how to fight an enemy that had destroyed civilizations far more advanced than humanity. "All ships report, ready for jump sequence," announced the Admiral. "Remember, people, we're not just representing Earth out there. We're representing every human who ever looked up at the stars and wondered if we were alone. Today, we have our answer. We're not alone, and some of our neighbors need our help." The space around the fleet began to shimmer as the faster-than-light drives activated. Reality twisted and bent as hundreds of human ships prepared to leap across the galaxy. "Let's go answer their call," Admiral Park said simply. And with that, humanity left home for the first time, carrying Earth's thunder to the stars. The human fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel into a graveyard. Captain Yunji stared through the bridge viewport at what had once been the Kethmori homeworld of Veilthera. The planet looked like a half-eaten apple, its surface carved away in perfect geometric patterns. Massive machines the size of mountains crawled across the exposed core, harvesting the last minerals from the dead world. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Duhayan from his navigation station. "What did they do to it?" "They stripped it clean," replied Lieutenant Wu Zhen, studying his sensor readings. "The atmosphere is gone, all plant life consumed. I'm not detecting any signs of organic matter anywhere on the surface." Captain Yunji felt sick looking at the ruined planet. Just 4 months ago, this world had been home to millions of people. They had built cities, raised families, created art and music. Now it was nothing but a hollow shell being processed by machines. "Captain, I'm detecting movement," Wu Jin announced urgently. 37 ships approaching from the far side of the system. They're not like anything in our databases. On the main screen, The Devourer ships appeared like nightmares made real. They were perfectly geometric, crystalline structures that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Each ship moved with mechanical precision, maintaining exact distances from each other as they approached in a flawless formation. "All ships, this is Admiral Park," came the voice over the communications. "Enemy vessels detected. They're coming. Straight for us. No attempt to communicate or negotiate. Prepare for combat." Yoonji studied the enemy formation on her tactical display. The Devourers moved like pieces on a chessboard, every movement calculated and precise. They expected their opponents to do the same, to fight with logic and order. "They think we're like the Kethmori," she realized suddenly. "They expect us to fight the same way." "What do you mean?" Captain Duhayan asked. "Look at their formation. Perfect spacing, logical approach vectors, textbook military tactics. They're machines, so they think in straight lines. But we're not machines." Admiral Park's voice crackled over the come again. "All ships, execute attack pattern, Chaos 7. Remember your training. We don't fight like computers." The human fleet scattered in all directions like a flock of birds startled by a predator. Where the Devourers expected organized battle lines, they found apparent madness. Human ships dove toward the planet's gravity well, using it to slingshot around at impossible angles. Others formed small groups that attacked from multiple directions at once. Captain Lee Jong-suk's voice came over the tactical channel. "Defiance, this is Thunder. We're making our attack run now. Wish us luck." Yoonji watched as Jong-suk led his squadron in a spiraling dive that took them through the Devourer formation at speeds that would have been suicide for any sane pilot. But the maneuver worked. The enemy ships, programmed for logical responses, couldn't predict the chaotic human tactics. "Fire, quantum entanglement, bombs," Admiral Park ordered. These were weapons that the peaceful Kethmori had designed but never built. Devices that could sever the connections between networked computer systems. Human engineers had studied the plans and built them in just 3 months, not fully understanding how they worked, but knowing they were humanity's best hope. The bombs detonated throughout the Devourer fleet like invisible lightning. Suddenly, the perfect coordination between enemy ships collapsed. Individual Devourer vessels found themselves cut off from their collective intelligence, alone and confused for the first time in their existence. "It's working," Duyayan shouted. "They're breaking formation." Human ships swarmed the isolated Devourer vessels like wolves hunting separated prey. The enemy had superior technology, but they had been designed to work as parts of a larger mind. Alone, they were vulnerable to humanity's packed tactics. One by one, the crystalline ships went dark and began drifting in space. The battle that the Devourers expected to win in minutes had turned into a rout. "Enemy fleet neutralized," reported Captain Choi Minjun from the UES Storm. "We did it. We actually beat them." But Yoonji wasn't celebrating. Her long-range sensors were showing something that made her blood run cold. "Admiral, we have a problem." Long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures at the edge of the system. On the main screen, something emerged from the darkness between the stars. It was enormous, easily the size of Earth's moon, and covered in weapons that bristled like the spines of some cosmic sea urchin. Smaller ships swarmed around it like insects, thousands of them, maybe millions. The Prime Harvester Wu Jin said quietly, reading the identification from the Kethmori database. "It's their main processing ship, the one that turns entire worlds into fuel." Admiral Park's voice was grim when he spoke. "All ships, fall back. To minimum safe distance. We just fought the scouts. Now we're facing their entire fleet." As the massive construct approached, Yoonji realized that their small victory meant nothing. The Devourers they had just defeated were like a few drops of water compared to the ocean that was now bearing down on them. "Set course for Earth," she ordered quietly. "Maximum speed." The real battle was just beginning. and it would be fought in humanity's own solar system. The Prime Harvester arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system like a dark moon, its surface bristling with weapons that could crack planets in half. Captain Yunji watched from the bridge of her damaged ship as millions of smaller devourer vessels spread out around the massive construct like a metallic plague. All human ships, fall back to the asteroid belt. Admiral Park's voice crackled over the damaged communications system. Execute Operation Last Stand. Yunji's ship limped toward the belt of rocks that orbited between Mars and Jupiter. Her vessel had barely survived the running battle from the Kethmori system. Half her crew was injured, her weapons were nearly depleted, and her engines were held together with spare parts and hope. Captain, the asteroid defense grid is coming online, Lieutenant Sohine reported from the command center on Ceres. Her voice reached them through the emergency communication network that Earth had hastily established throughout the solar system during the 3 months it had taken the Prime Harvester to cross space and reach Earth. Humanity had worked frantically to prepare. Every asteroid in the belt had been fitted with engines and guidance systems. Millions of rocks, some as small as cars, and others as large as cities, now waited like a vast minefield between the Devourers and Earth. "This is Dr. Junho, calling from Earth," came a familiar voice over the communication channel. "Captain Yunji, are you receiving?" "I'm here, Doctor," she replied. "Please tell me you found something in those alien files that can help us." "I think I did." The Devourers process everything through their collective intelligence, millions of individual machines, all thinking as one. But I've discovered something interesting. They cannot understand concepts that require individual experience. Lieutenant Duhayan looked confused. "What do you mean?" "Love, sacrifice, art, hope. These things don't make logical sense to a machine mind. When they try to process such concepts, it creates what we might call logical errors in their network." The Prime Harvester was getting closer, its escort ships spreading out to attack the human defensive positions. Captain Yunji could see the mathematical precision of their approach, every movement calculated for maximum efficiency. "So what do you suggest, Dr. Admiral Park?" asked over the com. "We give them something to think about," Dr. Junho replied. "I've loaded the complete cultural database of human civilization into the communication arrays. Every song ever written, every poem, every story, every recording of laughter, every tear shed for love, every sacrifice made for others. You want to send them our music?" Lieutenant Wujin asked in disbelief. "Not just music, everything that makes us human. The Devourers are used to processing technological data and physical resources, but they've never encountered the one thing that no machine can truly understand, the human heart." The first wave of Devourer ships reached the asteroid belt and immediately came under attack from millions of guided rocks. The space around them lit up with explosions as humanity's improvised weapons found their targets. But there were too many enemy ships, and they kept coming. "All human vessels, begin cultural transmission," Admiral Park ordered. "Every ship, every station, every communication array. Send them everything." Captain Yunji activated her ship's transmission system and watched as the data began flowing outward. Not weapons or threats, but the recorded voice of a child singing a lullaby, the sound of rain on a roof, a poem written by a soldier to his wife, the laughter of friends sharing a meal. The effect was immediate and startling. The Prime Harvester's advance slowed as its massive computer systems tried to process the incoming data. What was the logical purpose of music? Why would beings create beauty, knowing it would fade? How could individuals willingly sacrifice themselves for others? "It's working," Sohyun reported excitedly. "The smaller ships are stopping their attack. They're just ... floating there." On her screen, Youngji could see individual Devourer vessels holding position as their collective intelligence struggled with concepts it had never encountered. The perfect coordination that had made them unstoppable was breaking down as they tried to understand. Why humans would die for abstract ideas like freedom and love. The Prime Harvester itself began to shudder, its massive hull vibrating as internal systems fought against the logical paradoxes flooding its network. For the first time in countless millennia, the machine intelligence experienced something it had no programming for: doubt. "Captain," Dr. Junho's voice came over the comm, filled with wonder. "I'm receiving responses from the Devourer fleet. They're not threats or demands. They single quotes, questions." The questions came in simple mathematical language, transmitted by machines that had spent eons consuming civilizations, but had never stopped to ask why those civilizations had fought so hard to survive. Why did humans create art that served no practical purpose? Why did they form bonds that caused pain when broken? Why did they choose hope when logic suggested despair? Slowly, across the solar system, the Devourer fleet began to change course, not retreating, but moving away from populated worlds and toward the empty spaces between stars. The Prime Harvester sent one final transmission before it too turned away, a simple mathematical expression that roughly translated to "Thank you for the gift of wondering." Captain Yunji watched the massive fleet disappear into deep space, carrying with them humanity's greatest export. The questions that make existence meaningful rather than just efficient. Months later, signals began arriving from across the galaxy, not desperate calls for help, but messages of gratitude from civilizations that were suddenly free from the threat they had faced for generations. Humanity had answered one whisper, and, in doing so, had taught the machines that sometimes the most powerful weapon is not thunder, but the quiet voice that teaches others to dream.